Now we're moving on to a study from the ESRI, of course the Economic and Social Research Institute, which has found that artificial intelligence adoption among Irish firms is likely to lead to job losses concentrated among highly educated workers. According to the research, around 7% of current jobs could be displaced in the short to medium term. To find out more, I'm joined by our tech expert from Munster Business based in Shannon. It's Pat Clarke Browne. Pat, good morning to you.
Morning, Alan.
Thanks very much for being with us. I suppose the first thing that strikes me about this, Pat, is I'm not surprised. I mean, anytime we have talked about AI, and I did mention, and we're fond of mentioning Terminator 2, how life could be imitating art eventually. This is kind of what I expected when AI began to be fully developed, and I'm sure you're no different.
So I mean, the whole purpose of AI is to help, in inverted quotes, you with your work. So the things that are kind of tedious and boring and long that you'd normally have to do, the idea is that the AI is supposed to help you. The problem, of course, is that if your job involves processing a lot of information, finance, things like that, once you train the AI to do the job, why would they need you? So they can, and that's what's happened. For example, Oracle recently fired 30,000 members of staff. They just sent them out an email in the middle of the night, said you're gone. 4 billion cut in wages because they're focusing on AI-centric processes instead. So if you're a programmer or a developer and your job is to write code, and I can just go, hey, I'm not even going to say the name because it'll start on my phone, hey, whatever, write me a program to do this, this, and this, and it'll just go and do it for you. Why do you need a bunch of people straight out of college or experienced developers? You might need a couple of them just to troubleshoot and check that everything is okay. But it's got to the stage now where you can ask one AI to check on the work of another AI and it'll pick up on any mistakes that the other one made. So it's definitely, there's a lot of roles out there that are in danger.
So let's delve into this further. So I guess maybe next question is just how far-reaching this is at the moment and how more further-reaching it could be. Because as I mentioned, the ESRI's research has found 7% of current jobs could be displaced in the short to medium term. Seems to be the more highly educated workers, as you mentioned there, software developers and so on. Does that suggest only if a small number of companies have explored AI, or that there is more and more of them adopting AI or certain elements of it, but it's still only specific jobs that are threatened as of now?
One of the things that's kind of holding back the massive adoption of AI at the moment is the cost for companies. So if your company wants to introduce, for example, Microsoft Copilot, which would be a very common AI system, it's €30 per user per month. So there's a cost justification for that. But there are, I do a lot of training for Optima Training based in Limerick, and there's a lot more the colleges, universities, companies saying, we'd like a half-day course on what AI could do for us at the moment and potentially what it could do in the future. So a lot of the training courses I give would be on Microsoft Excel, which is your bog standard spreadsheet data, report analysis and stuff like that. I used to be teaching people, this is how you make a report, this is how you design it. Now I'm saying, this is how you ask AI to make the report for you. So what would have been 4 or 5 hours of work of making a big, fancy dashboards and all the kind of fancy graphs and stuff, you can literally just type in, can you make a dashboard of this data for me? Give it a couple of minutes to work and you get exactly what you would have produced yourself. Not perfect, but what I'm literally telling people on training courses, give it another couple of months. Literally on a month-by-month basis, it's taking quantum leaps in what it's able to do. So definitely if you're working in finance, keep looking over your shoulder. Don't train the AI systems in your company on how to replace you. So, be careful what you teach it. But again, it's definitely something that's coming down the road.
Yeah, I was thinking when you were saying they're getting you in to give talks and lectures on what AI could do for us, what about what AI could do to us? Are Irish businesses, are they adopting AI at a pace that could drive these changes rather quickly, Pat, as far as you know?
Well, the functionality isn't quite there yet, but literally in the last couple of weeks, Microsoft introduced a feature called Co-work. So previously you could ask the AI a question and it could give you some information about it, but it couldn't go and do a lot of it for you. Now, because Microsoft have done a deal with Claude, another AI provider, now they have this Co-work feature where you can say, go and do the actual work. And that's where the problem is, because now that it can do it, as opposed to telling you how to do it, now they don't need you because they can just get the computer to do the whole thing. So you're kind of putting yourself out of work sometimes by teaching these things. And it's not just in finance. News presenters, yourself, be very careful.
No, don't say it. Don't say it.
All they need is enough samples of your voice, and they can just replace you. It's already happening in America. It's happened to a couple of DJs and that, where I think we told the story before, where a guy rang his friend and said, "I thought you got let go last week," and he said, "I was, yeah." He says, "Well, you're live on air at the moment," and they just had an AI doing the guy's job, you know.
Well, Pat, I suspect some Morning Focus listeners would think that artificial intelligence would be an upgrade on low intelligence, so they might welcome just hearing sound bites from me.
Sound bites are one thing, but personality is what counts. You're safe enough for the moment.
That's another open goal. They'll get in touch and say it's a personality-free zone, so we'll move quickly on before they start texting that in. I mean, look, the report from the ESRI talks about winners and losers. Is there even any point in asking who stands to benefit most from AI adoption? It sounds like the losers will be some workers, and perhaps increasingly, with what you've just said, many more workers, and the winners are the companies. They save money on wages, possibly increase productivity, and they'll be delighted with that.
It is, but I mean, the general benefit for the public is, for example, like if you use, like I'm on the way up to a wedding at the moment, and I use Android Auto on my car. Before you could say, navigate to wherever you're going, but now you can say, what's the traffic like, and it'll actually come back, and rather than just doing, getting a proper AI, built into these systems, tell me more about that company, where's the parking. It can do a lot more for you. So there are some benefits, but from an employment standpoint, the day of the robots is coming. You've seen them online. You've seen them out doing martial arts and stuff. So if you're working in a factory, your job currently is fairly safe because they can't physically assemble the stuff. But again, that's something where companies are looking at, well, we've got 500 people working there just doing basic assembly work. If I buy 100 robots, it's going to cost me a big amount of money initially, but in the long term, I can turn off the lights and they can work in the dark, and that's going to save me a fortune. And there are a couple of manufacturing plants now called in-the-dark plants, where there's no light. It's all robotic, computer assembly, all that stuff is being done in the dark by robots, with a couple of workers going around with infrared glasses on that they can see in the dark to check on things. But it's the progress that's worrying. It's how... If you go back 4 years ago, go back 2 years ago, look what we have now, and kind of look at what they're planning for the future, you're kind of wondering who's driving it. And exactly as you said, it's companies looking to reduce costs and increase productivity. One of the things we always say when I'm teaching project management, for example, is every project is perfect till you add users. You add the people in, and that's where things start to go wrong. So if you can take the people out of the loop, and it's kind of a scary thing to be saying, but take the people out, and then everything tends to run a lot better. So literally it is the story behind Skynet that we all have to worry about.
It does make me wonder though, it's like when we talk about AI creeping into music, and we've heard some examples, many examples, like that fake band that was on a streaming platform, and, to listen to you go, hey, but sounds fine, but it's missing a bit of the soul. The human element that makes art what it is. And I wonder with jobs as well, Pat, whether companies who are so keen to save money here, there and everywhere, by increasing AI use and taking humans out of the equation, they will then lose out. AI will do the job efficiently, but how creative or thinking outside the box is it likely to be? The human element of, sometimes accidentally stumbling upon a solution that nobody thought of, or creating a better pathway through a happy accident, wherever it might be. AI, if you adopt AI to a great degree, are you potentially missing out on that kind of X factor ingredient that can only come from human involvement?
Yeah, that's very true, because the AI systems are trained. So you basically have all the issues we've run into in the past. We feed all of those in, and then it takes that information and figures out what's called branching, where it can determine, like a flow chart. You're saying, I tried this, yes, no, yes, you go this way, no, you go that way. That's the basic fundamental of it operating. So if you throw something up to it that it has never seen before and has no frame of reference, then it doesn't really know what to do. It can make a guess, but that's why at the bottom of every AI page you'll see AI information may not be correct, you need to verify. Because they're not willing to say this is the correct answer, because you don't know where it's got that information from. It could be some spurious, bogus website somewhere that said rain falls up instead of rain falls down, and then, like there's a very funny one where if you ask it to spell strawberry, it says there's only 2 R's. The guy was going, no, spell it. And he says, well, there's one next to the B and there's one there. And it was just, I was going, no, there's only two. And then the guy was getting really frustrated, So they're not perfect, but they are improving dramatically. The only thing really slowing it down at the moment is giving it enough electricity, giving it enough memory and enough storage space. And that's where all these data centers are coming up at the moment. So there's going to be a massive shortage. That's why the new PlayStations and stuff are being delayed. You can't get the chips anymore because it's all going to AI, because it's seen as a growth area, massive amount of money to be made, and that's where organizations are investing their money now.
And let's talk about a focus on money next, because there's a warning in the ESRI study, Pat, about growing income inequality. And I guess AI, there's a significant risk that AI could widen the gap between higher and lower income households. But I do wonder if, another issue there is that there'd be some people where AI can do a lot of your job, but it can't do it all. And there's still potential for you to hold on to your job, but it's an increasingly diminished role. So you have a job, but you've a diminished role. And with that diminished role, the company you're working for says, well, we'll keep you on, but obviously you're not doing as much as you used to. So your salary drops significantly.
Yeah, so what we're finding is, and this is happening a lot in the States, more than here yet, is that the number of people on teams are being reduced. So say you might have had 5 people in your department. Now you've got 3 people and some bots, because the bots are doing a lot of the work that the other people used to do. So particularly if you're getting like all of these reports that you get every month, and then you're creating it, analyzing that data, creating reports for management from that. That's the kind of stuff that more and more can be handed over to the AI. So then I don't need 5, I only need 3. And then it'll be, I don't need 3, I only need 2. So the 2 that are left will be very busy, but the bulk of their work is going to be done by the AI. And there are some departments that eventually will find that they're completely outsourced. So before, companies used to outsource to India or outsource to another country because the labour was cheaper there. Now you can take the people out of the loop entirely and have all the work done by a computer system. And then you're just paying for that every month, or buying it buying the licensing for it. But not everything can be replaced yet. But on a week by week basis, new and more areas are finding that AI and computers are coming in to take over the world. But it's definitely going to be an issue. Like I said, like construction, things like that currently are safe, but you can now get 3D printed houses. They can bring the thing in and it'll 3D print the concrete. Not fully widespread yet, but it's going to be a bigger thing.
But
so these things, it always kind of like, I always kind of think it's like Star Trek. If you look back at the original Star Trek series, I'm an absolute nerd on this, but that's fine. And you look at things like the data pads, the computer systems, the communicators. What we currently consider science fiction becomes science, and then it becomes common. So, what is fiction and what you say, we're always referencing the Terminator, that'll never happen. The US Army, US government moved from one AI company to another because the first AI company said they wouldn't allow fully autonomous armed drones. So they said there must be people involved in the decision before a trigger is pulled. And the US government went, no, get rid of you. We're going to go with this crowd because they said they'll allow us have fully automated drones, that the drone makes the decision on whether to execute the kill or to pull the trigger or fire the missile. That's more worrying than my job in the finance department might be taken over by a robot. I'd be more worried about you're arming them, you're giving them autonomy, and they can be broken into and hacked. So, that's a more worrying issue for me. Maybe I'm just kind of thinking on a global scale. But it's definitely something we need to keep an eye on.
Oh, we definitely do. But maybe, Pat, the government will be keeping an eye on this, and maybe they won't be as keen to see the percentage of jobs being lost or displaced because of increasing adoption of AI by companies, because I wonder what kind of impact it could have on our tax system and public spending. And if job losses are higher than expected, and some of these more highly educated people can find a role in their area of expertise, and maybe they don't want to take on jobs that are lower pay or a lower skill set, they end up on the dole. And what kind of pressure that could put on the exchequer?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you think of where the government's main income is, it's tax, and robots don't pay tax. So the only money you're going to get would be the license that the company pays to have that AI system, Whereas, as you said, with physical people there, they have to get to work in the morning, which means you're getting money on the petrol. There's a whole other story there. And then they need to eat to get taxed on the food. They need to pay their actual taxation. They need to pay tax on their salary. If you take the people out of the loop, that's a massive income loss for the government. And exactly as you said, then what are the people going to do? And there are various future science fiction stuff that you can look at as to where we all end up as batteries in a system somewhere, depending on what your preferred outcome is. But it is something that it's not going to be our generation. It's probably not going to be the next generation, but definitely within the next couple of 100 years, there's going to be massive changes in the way the planet operates. We
have certainly given one listener, I'm sure we've given many listeners calls for concern, but one of them so concerned that they've gotten in touch to look for advice on 086 1800 964. Our listener says, good morning, Alan and Pat. So is there no point working in IT? I'm looking into grad programmes at the moment.
It's changing. So the courses that are on offer are being modified slightly. So what a lot of it is now is training what I call prompt engineers. So training people to know how to phrase the system for it. But certainly it's a massive issue. I do a lot of work with UL. I got friends who work out there, and they've said you've got students handing in their project work, and then they're asked, well, can you explain what you did here? And they've no idea because they didn't do it. It was AI.
Caught rotten, I think they call that.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of go, why did you get it to do this? And this would be like in coding and stuff. And they were like, this is AI, isn't it? Yeah. Now, in written text, there's kind of ways to pick up on it. But coding is coding. But there are certain traits that they have and certain things they use that companies and educational institutions can still look at that. So you still need to understand how it works. So somebody's got to do all of this. So like I said, it may not be quite yet that you need to worry about it, but certainly when companies like Oracle are letting huge numbers of people go, whereas where you might want to end up in your job, it's something the colleges are addressing. But I wouldn't say give up on it now, it's all going to be gone. But you might be sort of the second or third last round of people that will be doing that kind of work, because more and more of it is being outsourced by both developers. You can drop your branding information into a website and it'll design a whole website system and all that kind of stuff for you, and very functional. But there's still got to be some people in the loop,
Okay, so there you go, listener. If you don't really care about who comes after you, you'll be fine for the moment, but the industry might be threatened further down the road. Thank you so much, Pat. Hopefully you don't meet any fuel protest-related blockades on your way to Kildare. Thanks for joining us, and live long and prosper.
Thanks, Alan.
Thanks very much. Pat Clarke Browne there, from our tech expert from Munster Business, based in Shannon, with us on Friday's Morning Focus.